we have built at Fannie Mae a risk framework, which is an attempt to assign a risk factor to every asset we have. That factor is then used for us to focus on additional resources, change the governance around our change management process, or change the control, or apply different controls. So the higher the risk is, the more controls we have, so that we could actually be safer and have a more sound environment. So that's how we started. And we refer to that as a risk threshold framework, or RTF. This is something we've had in the environment for some time and we've been working on. As we were building this, we use this to prioritize everything we do. With highlights, it's another way to look at risk. It's another way to look at safety and soundness and quality. And pretty much in combination with the RTF and the output of highlight, what we do is then we prioritize what we are deploying AIP on. So it's not just using highlight, but using our RTF tools so that we can actually prioritize what we do with the deeper scanning capability that AIP provides. And then, by the way, in kind of going back to this feedback mechanism, is the results that we are getting from AIP are also recombined and actually used for us to update our RTF score, which is still in the making. We're still playing with the different weights of the different categories that AIP give us. But we come back and use these categories, create one single score that now becomes an input to our RTF model. And then the RTF model drives different level of governance that we need to apply to different assets. So you have a continuity between what we see in the environment, where we apply highlight based on that and based on the criticality of the business process that the asset is supporting, down to AIP where we go deeper into the code, and then back out of AIP, back into RTF feedback loop to actually update our RTF score and then go from there. From a risk management perspective, and let's limit it to IT risk, right? I'm not going to talk about operations risk or credit risk, but just, even IT in general. I don't think that we have in industry, in financial services or actually any other industry, I don't think we have a very good model for all the different risk aspects. I think we're still trying different things, different models. I think at Fannie Mae what we try to do is we try to take into account multiple aspects of risk. Software is one aspect, but obviously we also take into account the other parts of the stack, all the way down to the infrastructure, to the operating model, or the people associated with those assets, and try to combine that as one risk view. However we do the work, no matter what, we'll still encounter black swans, but the idea is to try to minimize that. So our risk approach is to try to take everything into account as much as we can without boiling the ocean. What we actually do is we correlate our calculation from a risk perspective and the output of this with what we see actually in the production and see if there is correlation. We come up with a number of metrics that we think, intellectually speaking, they make sense to have in the calculation. And then we correlate that with what happens in production. And then we realize that probably half of that is not correlated. So we drop those metrics, we try other metrics. So it's trial and error type of thing. And then we actually evolve our calculation of the risk factor, try to make it more accurate. With AIP, what we focus on is obviously what highlight gives us in terms of higher risk areas. We focus on applications that are supporting business critical processes. We focus on all new applications that we build that are frankly completely new, if you will. We have a mandate that drives them to using AIP just to make sure that at the get-go we start from the right footing. And then the other piece that frankly we haven't done yet but that we're considering doing is the more expensive applications. So far it's been about quality, it's been about safety and soundness. There is obviously the last part of this, the last leg to the stool, which is cost. So those are kind of the drivers for us to focus AIP on what matters.